connecting our lives to help us survive. So we live our time to the fullest we can.
Hello, welcome to Professional Insights created by Dementia Action Alliance. I am proud to be your host, John Richard. During our Professional Insights podcast, we have educational conversations with professionals in the dementia community to provide answers and support to people living with dementia and their care partners. My guest today is Melanie Whetzel. Melanie comes from ADA Job Accommodations Network, a service of the U.S. Department of Labor's Office of Disability and Employment Policy. She is the lead consultant of cognitive neurological team. First of all, Melanie, welcome. Can you tell us what the definition of a disability is under the ADA?
Sure. There's a very specific definition, and that is that an individual would have a mental or physical impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. Now, major life activities include things such as standing, walking, sleeping, seeing, hearing, and more related to dementia would be thinking, remembering, learning, reading, concentrating, communicating, interacting with others, and working. Now, substantially limits means that you're limited more than the average person. It's not a really high bar to meet. It's just that you're limited more than the average person.
Thank you. Is dementia always going to be covered in this case?
I think so. Yes. You know, we all have difficulty as we age with memory and focus and concentration, maybe that are part of the normal aging process. But dementia is not. That's not part of the normal aging process, but results from a complex pattern of abnormal changes in the brain. And so I'm certainly not a doctor here. I'm just going by what a lot of people have told us, with the many people that I've talked to over the years, that by the time you're diagnosed with dementia, it's probably progressed to a point that you're going to be substantially limited because it affects your brain function.
Right. Can someone who has been diagnosed with dementia continue to work?
Okay, that's a really good question. That's a question we get a lot because it seems like some doctors want people to just go on disability retirement, and that's not always needed. It's a case-by-case basis, of course. And again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a neurologist. But what we talk to a lot of people who have early onset, and sometimes they're 46, 48, 50s, early 50s, they still have children at home. They may still be paying a mortgage. They may be kind of in the height of their career, and they're very upset and want to know, what do I do? I don't want to quit working. And let me just talk about work for a minute. Work is very important. It provides a paycheck and benefits, which we all need, but it also provides other things to us, like a purpose. It gives us a purpose. It gives us an identity. It gives us a network of social interactions. It can give us independence, can increase our self-esteem. So work can be very important for those reasons as well. And again, it's on a case-by-case basis, but we talk to people about what they can and can't do in their jobs. A lot of times they start to have problems in their jobs, and that's what leads to them going to the doctor to become diagnosed. And there may be certain things in a job that they're not going to be able to do, especially a high-level job. We talk to people who are in very high-level jobs, and certain things have happened with their brain, and they're not able to continue doing some of those tasks. Now, under the ADA, an employer does not have to remove essential functions. And that would mean that the job functions that are really essential or what the job is made for, they don't have to remove those. They can, but they're not required to. And so what we would say is you want to look at accommodations that can help you do those tasks. Do you need a checklist, maybe a flow chart with steps, maybe a flow chart that's color coded that would help you go through the steps, maybe some retraining in certain areas, would that be helpful? Having a mentor, somebody there in the workplace that can help answer questions when you have those. And then that may be possible, and that may be the accommodations that someone needs for a while. And then that may change down the road too. We also see where employers will remove essential functions, like in a job carving. And that's where the employer takes out certain tasks and puts certain tasks in. And it's kind of specialized for the individual. And I've seen that work. I have an example here in just a minute I'm going to talk about. That is one way to do it, where some of the essential functions that the employee can't do are taken out. And maybe some things, marginal functions that are easy for the employee to do, things that the employee is able to do, maybe more of those are added in. And maybe from someone else's job. And then it's just like a job restructuring between several people in a department, possibly. And then another idea is reassignment. And that is if somebody can no longer be accommodated in the position that they're in, even with accommodations. And so the employer would look at reassigning the employee to an open position that they're qualified for. Now, it may be a lower position because they may not be able to do those same tasks at a high level, that they're unable to do in their own job. And so the employer would look for a job that they're qualified for. It's an open position. They don't have to create one. They can, like in job carving. They don't have to bump someone else out of one, but they look at what's open and what the employee would be able to do. Now, I have a couple examples. One was, and these are on our website. These are real examples. When we talk about the examples, they're always real ones that we've had. We've had a lot. This was a finance manager who had difficulty learning new tasks and staying organized. And her physician recommended disability retirement, but her employer took an integrated employment approach and carved out a position for her that had fewer responsibilities, but still allowed her to share her expertise with her coworkers, because she had a lot of financial expertise that was still great to share with her employees, and she could still be a big help. Another one was a music teacher in a high school who was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. And through meeting with the school administration and then with help from her doctor, information from her doctor, she was able to remain in her position. There was a coworker that helped her clean off her desk, clean out her files, make sure that the information she needed was easy to locate. They did a color coding scheme to make it even easier. They gave her a voice activated recorder so she could use that to record directions or notes in meetings or things that she needed to remember that she was given verbally. And with those accommodations, she was able to stay at a high level of performance in her job.
Wow. One of the things that you've mentioned, you've talked about how this gives you a purpose, and the fact that younger people sometimes are diagnosed early and then right in the middle of a career. Mm-hmm. I've known a lot of people who are afraid to speak up and say that they have a job, that they have dementia, because they're afraid that they'll be fired from their job, let go. And in fact, we've heard people talk about situations where they have been let go after a diagnosis. Mm-hmm. What can people do if they feel they have been discriminated against because of their disability?
Okay, I'm going to share my screen here so I can provide you with some information that will be very helpful. First of all, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or the EEOC, there's a website there and a phone number. They are the enforcing agency of the ADA on a federal level, and they handle complaints of discrimination. They do investigations, they can do mediation, and that can be employment, disability discrimination, age discrimination. So if you feel like you have been discriminated against and fired because of your disability, or treated unfairly, you can contact the EEOC and talk to them. They're also, now let me say this, that under the ADA, the employer, to be covered under the ADA, the employer needs to have 15 or more employees. If there are fewer than 15 employees, then your state human rights commission would come into play. There are different states that have different thresholds for employees, some may be as low as 2 or 3. And so there are state laws that would cover you as an employee too. So you can always contact your state human rights agency. And they all have different names, but the generic term there is state human rights or state civil rights. And there's the link there to our JAN webpage that has all the states civil rights agencies listed there with their contact information. Now, there's also local protection and advocacy, and that's the P&A, and they have the authority to provide legal representation and other advocacy services. Now, those are provided on a priority basis, so you can contact them as well, and that link there will take you to our webpage where it'll list the P&A agencies and the contact information by state. Now, then there's also housing. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. You can contact the Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity, and that's FHEO. There's a website there, and then I listed 2 phone numbers too, if you have been discriminated against in housing. Now, that next link there says a Job Accommodation Network, or JAN. That is our website. It's at askjan.org, and a phone number. If you have any kind of questions about employment rights, our specialty is employment, Title I under the ADA, but we can also refer you to other agencies. If you have questions, you don't know where to go for help, you can contact us and we can help you with that. If we can't answer your questions, we direct you to the people who can. And so if you're not sure who to call or what you need, you can give us a call, we can help with that. And then we also have a publication. It's specific to Alzheimer's disease, but it really will cover any type of dementia. It has topics such as managing time, memory loss, organization, prioritization, planning, managing stress, and then just cognitive function in general. But one thing I think I failed to mention up there, and what we have in our publication there in Alzheimer's disease, we have some tips, excuse me, some tips for the employee and some tips for the employer. So when you're diagnosed with dementia and you're not sure what to do, we suggest talking to your employer as soon as possible. Always have a support person with you, you know, a spouse, a sibling, or maybe an adult child who knows you, who knows what you're going through, can go in there and support you. And we urge employers to welcome support people, because if the employers want to do what's best for the employee, what's best for the job, and generally what's best for the employer, they want to do best by the employee. So welcoming in support people to help that process. And you want to talk about the job and what you need going forward. We recommend a full conversation with the employer. EEOC recommends that employers have a full conversation with the employee anytime that the employee mentions a disability. We would recommend going to HR, talking about your benefits, what your options are. A lot of employers have an employee assistance program, or an EAP, and that is a really nice program that can provide you with services, maybe counseling and lots of other things that you may need. So getting in contact with them, if your employer has one of those, is very important too. And we would urge you to talk about accommodations, how fast the disease is moving. The employer might want to know that with information from the doctor to know what kind of accommodations to put in place. What are they looking at, down the road? And then we would urge the employer to make sure they monitor those accommodations to make sure they're effective, because you want your employee to be effective.
Okay. The link to the document will be below this video. So I just want to thank you. Right now, I feel like it's information overload. There's so much there to really process. I'm so thankful for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to seeing how this discussion continues as we go forward. So much appreciated. And for all the links and everything, thank you so very much, Melanie.
All right.
Absolute dear.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. And I apologize if you felt like you got hit by a fire hose. I wanted to include what I thought was most important in that short amount of time. So thank you for the opportunity.
I'd like to thank you for joining DAA for this Professional Insights podcast. Please visit our website, daanow.org, to view the other podcasts, find valuable resources, and find ways to connect with other people living with dementia through our virtual discussion and engagement groups. Dementia Action Alliance is committed to enhancing lives, connecting people, and increasing understanding. With that, everybody have a great day, and it's so appreciated that you joined us.
So we